So this is a video for people that might be on the fence about making content and why I think the best time to start making content was yesterday. So to understand this, I think the best thing to do is to look back at history. And the best place to start, I think, is with newspapers. So if you look at newspapers, when they started, there were only a few people that had printing presses, and those became the large national publications. And what would happen is they would have the only papers in town, and so they would ship them all over the world and all over the country. And what happened though, as printing presses became more accessible, is you had local papers that start to crop up, and the demographic that bought them would cut into the market cap of the national papers or the larger papers from major cities. And because there'd be people that would be like in Randall, Minnesota saying, I don't really care what's happening on the New York Stock Exchange. I'm a farmer. It doesn't really affect me, so on and so forth. So you'd get people that just, that used to buy from you that don't anymore. And if you think about TV, it went the same way. So it started with something like 3 channels, and then they'd all turn off at 8 o'clock at night, and you get that dial tone, that test pattern. And what happened was you'd have viewership on one thing where like half the country would watch one show together because there's only like 2 shows on. And then you'd get 7 channels, and then you got cable TV, and you got hundreds of channels. And that same avatar got fractured. The population got fractured, and the attention got fractured. And as a result, like the only events now that would garner that same percentile of the population with the singular focus of attention would be something like the Super Bowl, right? A major event. That's the only thing that would cross-pollinate enough where everyone would be watching the same thing. Now, to understand, right now, social media is in that infancy phase where you can pretty much count the main players on one hand. And what that means is that you want to get on board now. Because if you frame it this way, think about it. If you were in the New York Times of the day, let's say like Twitter, Instagram, so on and so forth, are like the New York Times of the day. Now, even though in the future there are going to be people that are paired out, like that guy from Randall, Minnesota, he's not going to be interested in the New York Times. But guess what? No one in Manhattan is reading the Minnesota local paper. That's the point. And so it's going to be much harder to grow in the future when social media is niched down. It's not going to get much easier. So you need to get in now while there are singular big players in the field, and then you can pollinate out later when things niche down. But it's very hard when you're relegated to a niche to exponentially grow upwards. So I think that's the best time to start. It's right now. Better time was yesterday. And don't worry about the quality. Listen, I spend 15 minutes a day making these videos. I'll do 3 takes, do the best one. I'm not doing any text over it. I don't have time to invest in content like that. I just put something out there, build a brand, do the work, and do volume.